Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Irit, for the very warm introduction. We will not repeat Judge Rubinstein's yesterday. I'm very happy to see you here, remember? Thank you, all the organizers. Thank you, President Lindzen, Irit, the former president, who we have worked a lot together. I'm happy to see here with us Katharina von Schnurbein, who is forcefully fighting against anti-Semitism in the EU. I think we have the Swedish ambassador. Hi. And many other friends. Okay, the definition of what I was asked to speak about is the problems in monitoring and analyzing anti-Semitism. And I'll try to give you a number of examples of the problems, and also to call, if you will allow me, to call upon all of us to exercise a bit of proportion and not to be just carried away by the feeling that the situation is becoming worse from one moment to another. It is becoming worse, but let's see the picture as it is. And I allow myself, I take the liberty of saying such a sentence to exercise a bit of proportion, because we in Tel Aviv University, a certain team, most of us are together, working together since 1992, and we are monitoring, analyzing, and producing every year a report that goes internationally about the situation worldwide. The first one in 1994 was presented to the late Yitzhak Rabin. It was the first one, but since then until today, which means 25 years of reporting, this year I'm very happy to say that the Pope twice quoted our report, and so did the American Congress and many others. So this is a justification. Now, the first one, I have a modest presentation, and the first that you see is, of course, you can see it's Netanyahu depicted as a dog, and the dog is okay. And the dog is, of course, taking President Trump. President Trump is blind, as you see. Needless to say, if you didn't know that Netanyahu is a Jew, he has a Star of David hanging from his neck, and Trump is being schlepped blindly by Netanyahu. Why did I start with this? Because a first problem, we're speaking about problems of monitoring and analyzing. The first is that we are trying to distinguish between violent cases, major violent cases that are being reported, and we can monitor most of them. Where is Ksenia? She was so right about saying, and I'll come back to that, that there are countries where you do not have the full picture, but regarding violence, we more or less have the numbers. On the other hand, visual and verbal expressions are uncountable. And this is exactly where the feeling that anti-Semitism is increasing comes from, though we cannot count them. There are so many caricatures, graffitis, letters of threats, phone calls, insults, harassment, minor harassment, there are so many of them, and we cannot, let's face it, we cannot really count them or monitor them. There are a number of attempts today to develop tools, technical tools that can tell you, let's say if you enter Google or Twitter or all the others, you enter and you see an anti-Semitic expression to pinpoint that the tool is meant to pinpoint that it is anti-Semitic and to call upon the servers to take it off. One of Mrs. von Schnurbein's major efforts is vis-a-vis the servers to have them take it off when it is identified. There was a survey and an attempt to have such a tool, and a survey by the World Jewish Congress, and it said, the conclusion of the survey was that every 8 seconds in the world, there is an anti-Semitic expression. Gewalt. Every 8, you know what? I would check it again. It seems to me that either the tool was too hasty, or I don't know. I urge you to think about the information that you are getting and not to be carried away by, this was an example, by such declarations about the situation of anti-Semitism. I would seriously doubt that. So this is one major problem, okay? To understand that we cannot count, but at the same time realize and feel empathy to the Jews, Jewish communities, Jews as individuals who are facing these uncountable verbal and visual expressions. We always remember that it's very easy to sit in Tel Aviv, behind your desk in Tel Aviv University, as you saw, a very nice place, a lot of greenery and flowers, and monitor anti-Semitism. Unless you live it, and we have a net of people all over the world sending us the material, and they live there and know the situation, until you live through it, you don't understand. Okay. Here is a graph that leads me to a second point. The graph begins at 1989, okay, and ends, as you see on the other side, at 2018. Now, this graph, as you see above, is about major violent incidents, not minor, but major. I'll bring some examples in a minute, but major means people who were attacked, synagogues set on fire, severe vandalism, violence. Okay, a second point is that I would urge you also to put anti-Semitism, not to, God forbid, not deal with anti-Semitism properly as it should and as we are all doing, but to put it in the world context, in the country's context, in regional context, to see also what is going around, what is happening to other minorities. Yesterday we had such nice speeches and introductions, but they were only about anti-Semitism. They didn't say, for instance, that the Roma people, the Gypsies, are the ones who suffer most and suffer much more than we do. They are not, well, I won't go into it. They are not in the situation to fight for themselves. But they are the ones who are deprived and discriminated and attacked much more. And I could give other examples. Sitting with us here is Mike Wine from the CST in London, who is doing a remarkable job for so many years. They monitor tens of thousands of cases of racism of all kinds in the UK. Okay, but we concentrate on, of course we do, we concentrate on what is being done to Jews. But let's see the context. Let's see that we live in a world where fanaticism is growing, religious fanaticism is growing, where more extreme groups are popping up. I am doing this because here is the United States and here is Europe. If you look at the map, they are popping up here and there. They are strengthening, but none of them is only anti-Semitic. They are they are against anyone who is not like them or will not let them have a white Christian America, for instance. Okay? So please look at the picture in total, in the context. And here, I'll shortly have a look. The 1980s that are not here, and are not represented here, were in low numbers. Low, less than, in all the cases, less than 100. But then you had a rise with the Gulf War, and the idea that Israel convinced American Jewry to convince the American administration to go to war against Iraq so that Israel is not hurt. Okay, that's a typical and classical conspiracy theory, but indeed anti-Semitism, we're speaking about the violent one, goes up, okay, during the early 90s. It comes down, and you see in the middle of the 90s, you see that it comes down from 300 to around 150 average. Why is that? Because after and following the first wave of immigrants and the riots that came as a result, such as the summer of Rostock in Germany, 1994, where newcomers were burnt, newcomers, not Jews, they were burnt in the places they were allocated as a living, and the polices and local administrations had enough and put leaders of the extreme right in prison. And the result was that also the situation of anti-Semitism improved, and you see better numbers. But it is connected to the general context, to the newcomers, and to the question of public order. Then you see that after the infamous Durban Conference, 2001, and the fall down of the Twin Towers 2 days after the conference ended, there is a rise. The Durban Conference was like in sport, when you fire and the run begins, you give a signal and the run begins. It was like a firing minute, or a minute where the sign was given and anti-Semitism became more intense, more violent, as you can see by the cases, with many more visual and verbal expressions. You see it coming up, okay? And then down, please take a look at this 406 coming down. What happened then? Sarkozy was made Minister of the Interior in France, and he decided to crack down on racism, to put back public order, and to improve the situation of anti-Semitism. And it was a year of elections in France. He won, and you see the results of his work. Then you have Gewalt, a peak. This is, עופרת יצוקה, יהודה לוי זוקמן? Cast lead. That's Operation Cast lead. That was the peak of violent attacks. It seemed to us that first of all, not every military operation or not every event in the Middle East results in more violence. Sometimes yes, sometimes not. Again, it depends on the context, not in Israel or in the Middle East. It depends mainly on the context, the general context, in Europe, in the countries, in the United States. In this case, it started like a few hours after the military operation began, which means that they were ready before and used demonstrations and slogans and working in internet. Okay, it comes down, and as you see, goes up again 2004, which is Tzuk Eitan. The last one, the last military operation in 2004, but then it comes down. Why does it come down? Didn't we agree that in recent years, anti-Semitism is on the rise, violence is on the rise, etc.? No. The numbers are coming down, as you see, after 2014, 15, 16, we were really wondering, what is happening here? Why is the discrepancy between the feeling and the numbers? And there are a number of explanations. A major one is that because of, again, general violence and the cases in France, in Belgium, in Copenhagen, police decided to be more present on the streets. Army is more present on the streets. Jewish institutions are being protected. 800 of them in France only. A lot of budget is put into that. And efforts are being taken to secure security. Better intelligence and exchange of information among intelligence agencies also helped bring it down. And sorry to say, but it has been mentioned yesterday as well, Meir, I think you did it, less Jews with kippah go outside with kippah, which means that they are less identifiable and therefore there are less cases. I hate to say it, you see that there is a rise again from 2017 to 18, and I think that when we sum up 2019, that is coming soon to an end, it will be higher, or the sum up will be higher. It will not come back. I don't think it will come back to the beginning of the century, or this graph that you see there from the beginning, but the numbers, I think, will be higher. Okay. That was my second point. One was the difficulty to distinguish and to count the verbal and the visual. The second one is that we should see the context, the political, the social context. Now to a third one. Here you see major violent incidents worldwide in 2018. And you can see that the blue, the dark blue, the little one, is with weapons. And then you have the red, 55 cases, weaponless violence. Weaponless means with a stone, a stick, but not with a gun. Then arson, then threats, but not just threats over the phone, real threats when someone grabs you in the street and is threatening you, and vandalism. You see, it looks very nice and very well organized, thank you, but it doesn't give, with all respect, due respect to our work, it does not give the full picture. It gives a picture that is close to the real one, but not a full one. I'd like to thank again Ksenia for saying that in Russia, did you say it in Russia or in the Ukraine, vandalism is not counted according to its origin or intention, but just as vandalism. In Germany too. In Germany, there are dozens of desecrations of cemeteries a year. They are not counted as anti-Semitic cases. They are counted under another category, vandalism, and not under anti-Semitic. So, of course, there were complaints about it. They are trying to, Petra Pau from the Greens Party is trying to change that, but it is an example of how, even if we are in a constant touch with local authorities, such as the Verfassungsschutz in Germany, Mike is in contact with the police in Britain, with a good trust between them. We get the numbers of the Ministry of the Interior every year. Still, I would say that this is not the full picture. And vandalism, you see that it's the majority, has many faces to it, many forms of vandalism, but we cannot, as we say, monitor them all or be sure about them all. Okay. Target. This is definitely a case. You start with the blue, the darker blue, and you see persons, attacks on people. The red is synagogues, then community centers, you see it's green, the green, then cemeteries more, then memorial sites more, and private property. Why is this division? Why does it look like that? It looks like that because, as we said, there is more protection to Jewish institutes. And this is, you see that community center, you have a low percentage, community centers and schools. But cemeteries and memorial sites, you cannot go protect every cemetery and memorial site out in the street or out of town. And so they are attacked more. Persons, you know that when we started monitoring, the majority of the cases was, about 60% of the cases we witnessed was a desecration of cemeteries. A few years later, it was again about 60% the attacks on synagogues. Then this number came down, as we said, they are better protected, and the highest number and the most troubling and insulting one is attacks on persons, on children, people on the street identified as Jews, students, people at working places, mainly the streets, but in other places as well. This is the majority of the cases now, and it is much more than it used to be in former years, and it is insulting, increasing, and the numbers of this category are increasing, but bringing perpetrators to trial is a very difficult task. You are attacked from behind, you're attacked in the dark, someone shouts at you, runs away. Now, Yofi, go. You have no details to come and sue or to come and complain. You know that according to a major good survey, excellent survey, done by the FRA, a second one, a former was a few years before, in 1918, the first one was released in December 2013, 75% of the cases are not being reported. Are not being reported, not the violent, the other ones, which means that we have by reporting, we have only 25%, a quarter of the picture, okay? So please be sympathetic to us who are monitoring anti-Semitism, but we have to confess we do not have the full picture. The attacks on persons is the most worrying and the most insulting one, but it goes mostly unpunished, uncomplained about. People don't complain. Jews don't complain in many of the cases. Okay, the countries, I have a short time left. So you see here United States, Canada, France, Germany, Belgium popping up. Poland, I think this year will be even higher. The Netherlands, the Ukraine, Switzerland, more cases. Argentina this year will be more too. Now, there have been a number of references. Aliza, you spoke about the working definition. The State Department did not exactly take this one. They modified it a bit, and this in itself is a slight modification of the original one from 2005. I'm very proud to say that on May 2016, we were in the IRA in Bucharest. We were celebrating Professor Yehuda's Bauer 90th birthday, 90th birthday, and on that meeting, we had a whole discussion and debate. We modified, three people of us, we modified a bit the original working definition, and I brought it to you. I will not go into the problems that Aliza already mentioned, but I will draw your attention to the following. First of all, the IRA decided to adopt the following non-legally binding working definition. This document that is now being adopted worldwide by many institutes, NGOs, governmental agencies, it is being adopted more and more as a tool, as a useful tool, is not legally binding. On that problem, my colleague, Advocate Taliana Amat, will speak in a minute. She's with us in the Kantor Center. But I believe, it should not become a legally binding, because at that moment, it will cause many problems, and the will to adopt it, to use it, to recommend it, will be much less, because it will seem that Jews are taking everyone by the hair of their head and schlepping them to court. Antisemitism is a certain perception of Jews, which may be expressed as hatred toward Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of antisemitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and other property, towards Jewish community, institutions, and religious facilities. That's the gist of the definition, that gist of it. Now, I want to draw your attention to two expressions there. Hatred toward Jews. I objected to put the word hatred, and I thought that hostility or the use of hatred and hostility are much better. You don't have to be an anti-Semite in order to perpetrate or to spread propaganda or to act in an anti-Semitic way. You cannot be not an anti-Semitic person, but you use the feelings of others towards Jews for your goals, political goals, religious leaders' goals, etc. So I think that hatred is very strong. It's not always hatred. It's hostility. It's a negative view that is a feeling felt by many people and used by others. Also, I'd like to draw your attention to why does it say directed towards Jewish or non-Jewish individuals? Aren't we speaking about Jews that are being hated or attacked? Yes, but what we meant by that is that the intention is what counts. If you walked on the street and thought that someone is a Jew, and you attacked him because you thought he is a Jew, this is definitely an anti-Semitic act. Although you thought he's a Jew, and this is why you did it, but the person is a non-Jew. This doesn't take off the intention to do an anti-Semitic act. מה נשמע? כן, time is up. Look, it says there with red, with a red screen. Time is up. Okay. Therefore, we'll conclude here by saying that the working definition of anti-Semitism that was partly analyzed by Aliza will go on being analyzed legally by Talia is a tool to help monitor, because it gives a long number of, you see all these points calling for, making, accusing, denying, etc., drawing, all these are examples of anti-Semitism that you can read. It is being taught to policemen, it is being used in courts, it is a help in monitoring. Let me thank the organizers again for having me here, and you for listening. And again, I say, the situation is a severe one, no doubt. These are not the 30s. These are not the 1930s, where a major country organized, perpetrated, organized in other countries. These are not the 30s. But the State of Israel wasn't there. Jewish communities are so much more active. Please take a look at the situation with proportion, in context, and with the proper tools. Thank you.